Are you ready to unlock the secret to sky-high conversion rates in UX? I'm talking about a potentially 90 plus percentile increase. So hang about. We're going to dive into the world of storytelling and understand how it can transform your design impact. But it has to be done the right way. Storytelling is not just for bedtime stories anymore. You see, storytelling is the cornerstone of human connection. And since the beginning of time, it's been used to move the soul and to get people to do things. And in UX, it's no different, to be honest. It becomes about how we connect to people, how we connect to our users via the solutions we create, how we build trust, how we ultimately guide users toward those sweet conversions. It's about creating experiences that people will remember. Now, lots of UX professionals get lost in wireframes and UI kits, and they start to forget the human element. For example, they spend time trying to perfect their usage of shortcut keys in Figma or Adobe XD or some other kind of design software and forget it's about the people. Now, I've seen it. You might have seen it as well. Campaigns that land with a thud, right? Failing to ignite any spark, any feeling. But what's the result? Well, it flatlines where your conversion rate should be. Sound familiar? Well, I've been there. I felt that deflation of a project that didn't really connect with the customer. But what if I told you that you could make that change? Well, storytelling will give you a superpower to boost those conversion rates if you wield it wisely. So what makes storytelling truly compelling? Well, first of all, you want to make it about them. Make the story speak to your audience's heart. Think about the character that they can root for, a journey with real conflict and a satisfying resolution. You see, these are core elements that make storytelling truly effective. But what about emotional appeal? See, this can be huge. You want to create characters who are relatable, ones who perhaps have problems just like yours, just like theirs. So a great way to do that is to use real data, and then you want to create a fictitious character because real data, of course, is relatable because it's from the people who use the product. But what about conflict resolution? See, this is the edge of your seat part. That is essential. You see, that kind of tension builds the story and the resolution makes it so much more memorable as well. My favorite story technique is the problem, agitate, solve. So that's the PAS framework if you're familiar with that. So you want to show the problem, then really agitate that problem, help people to feel the pain, help them to understand more about the character, make it become real to them. And then finally, you want to offer the solution. It's simple really, but incredibly powerful. Now, the right story on the whole problem to solve and breaking down that story into manageable, relatable and memorable pieces helps to develop your soft skills, which is another fantastic added bonus. But how effective is it really? Well, I recall a case study where a company used the PAS story technique and they saw a massive 90+% increase in their conversions. Something to think about, right? Yeah, let it sink in. Now, here's where storytelling goes beyond the conversion rates, because remember, we're trying to develop as people to become better designers, and people develop all-round skills, not just skills behind a computer screen. So it becomes about developing your soft skills. See, it changes how you get buy-in from your team or persuade stakeholders to come on board, especially when you're creating something new, a problem to solve that you've now created the desired outcome for. Now, when you learn to craft a story about a project that's effective, concise, and impactful, your soft skills will become more polished and powerful than ever before. But think about communication for a second. See, storytelling can transform dry data into engaging narrative. What about empathy? See, through the characters you create, you show that you understand user pain points. And collaboration? What about that? See, a shared narrative builds team alignment. Now, if you're in leadership or you're aspiring to be, storytelling isn't optional. See, this is a must-have skill. Now, leaders can cast a vision. Stories help make that vision vivid, inspiring people to follow. Now, how you are perceived by others or how you're able to deliver impactful and persuasive messages are essential as a leader. So can you see why storytelling is crucial, mandatory even? Think about persuading your team. Let's just take that for example. So you don't just tell them to adopt user-centered design. You want to tell them about a user whose life was made better. Show the team the impact that they'll have. Sell the idea, right? This is where you get people much more invested. So it's more than just about features. It's a story about how those features solve a real pain. Want to foster innovation? Well, get creative with your stories. Use the storytelling ability to get the soul of your company to work with you in your favor. But what's the biggest challenge in UX? Well, you want to bridge the gap between user needs and business value. A massive, massive challenge to do, right? Because we can create amazing designs. We can create amazing creative assets. Design systems are plenty. However, if it doesn't connect with the business value, you'll never get the support you need. So storytelling is the bridge. So instead of just presenting research findings, craft a narrative that shows how solving a user problem directly translates into business gains. You see, this is how the magic happens. See, the business, they talk P&L. And of course, in design, we talk another language. So learn how to translate what we speak into language they can understand. A really good example is when we travel to another country that speaks another language that is not our own. What do? We make efforts to at least learn 1 or 2 words so we can get by on the bare minimum, right? But for the most part, we're generally confused. Now just imagine what that would be like in the office. You're speaking design language and they're speaking business language. Do you think they'll get the point? No, they'll be just as confused. So let that sink in for a moment. When you can create an effective link and tell a convincing story that shows that the user needs are the same as the business objective, that's how you win. For example, show that reducing confusion on a page, such as checkout, leads to increased sales, right? Or increased conversion. See, that extra time in storytelling with the intent becomes a way to speak the language on both sides. So both parties now understand the language being spoken. Going back to our illustration, right? Okay, so here's the rubber meeting the road. Some practical tips that you can immediately implement for better storytelling today. Simplify. What is the shortest story that gets the idea across? Humanize the characters. Make sure they feel like real people. Focus on the conflict and then the resolution. Let's take an example. You're advocating for an improved onboarding process. Now, instead of showing data, even though we may want to show data too, that's okay. Build a story of a frustrated new user who almost gave up in the journey, but then resolve the conflict. After the changes in the design, the same user completed the onboarding seamlessly and have since become a loyal customer and have now become a revenue source and a reliable one, a returning customer. Well, that's all because you built that initial onboarding with an emphasis on a better user experience. But you told the right story so everyone now can relate to the solution and it's become more memorable on both sides, not just for the user, but for your stakeholders, the ones who will support you in future projects. Okay, so just remember these letters so you can be reminded of your own storytelling and the need to do it. If we create W, it will solve X. To do this, we need Y. And as a result, you'll see Z or Z, depending on where you're from. The letters may not mean anything initially, right? But just think of the letters as a foundation. Let the story breathe life into what you need to do. Now, let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them, okay? Now, all right, we're going to finish with some really powerful statements that you can take into your work and into your life and use these as a part of your storytelling. Every design choice is a story waiting to be told. Empathy is your superpower in crafting compelling narratives. Turn data into characters. Humanize the insights. Now, your goal is to leave your stakeholders feeling something. I truly hope that you found this video helpful because I want you to have as much success as possible in your own storytelling and your own efforts in what you do. But I'd love to hear about what other things you personally do and what successes you have in the comments below. Now, if you're looking for more effective marketing strategies, why don't you check out the video on optimizing your landing pages for your website on SWOT analysis and also impact versus effort. And you can do that here, but also here as well. Thanks for watching. Now go start telling some amazing stories. Stay present, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.